Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
Hello, this is the Italian Wine Podcast. My name is Monty Waldin. My guest today is Mark Cuff. Mark has been on the show before. Mark, just introduce yourself. Where are you from and what do you do?
Hey, Monty. My name is Mark Cuff. I own a company in Ontario called The Living Vine, which is a wine agency importer that specializes in organic, biodynamic, and natural wines. And I'm based in Ontario.
Yeah, why did you start that company? Why didn't you open a shoe shop or a gun shop or something?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Monty. I would say I think I read a book about biodynamic wineries by a fellow named Monty Waldin, and I got really, really inspired amongst other books that I was reading. And that's no joke. I know we've known each other for a long time. We're joking around a lot, but I got really interested in biodynamic wines while I was working in restaurants in Toronto in the early 2000s. And there wasn't anyone else that was importing, marketing, or speaking about biodynamics and organics in any meaningful way. I certainly didn't see them on the LCBO monopoly shelves in Ontario or in restaurants. It was just right there in front of me, and it was an irresistible opportunity for me to explore and get to know these wineries and the people behind them. And it's 15 going on 15 years now, and it's been an amazing and challenging 15 years.
How well known or how well accepted are those terms in Canada? Just normal, everyday people who have the odd glass or bottle of wine.
It's definitely more. I don't think it's niche anymore, if that's what you mean. I think most people, if you say something's organic, they know immediately what it is and what I mean by that. And, without chemicals, maybe cleaner, healthier. When I say biodynamics, I think there's still a lot of people, their eyes will glaze over and they don't really, understand what I'm talking about. But I can also talk about it being more like, sort of super organic, or it's like a level up. And then I can, go deeper if they're interested. But I think for the most part, I think the trade in Ontario, I think across Canada, is incredibly knowledgeable compared to when I started, and consumers as well, especially in the last 3 to 4 years. There's lots of new agencies and companies, and people are being creative, and everyone's sort of focusing in on different things that they're interested in. I think with beverage alcohol in Ontario, and I think that has only increased awareness and the education of organic and biodynamic viticulture. So and in many respects, it's probably never been easier. I guess in the last 15 years, the first 10 years I was in business, I think I had 10 customers. It was rough, but in the last half a dozen years, it's been there's been amazing growth, I think, around the world, and not just our marketplace. Yeah, Ontario is certainly catching up to other major markets in terms of having incredible wineries and diverse selection of products and a knowledgeable consumer and trade that can talk about them and enjoy them, and especially with social media and Instagram and things now. Everything is there in front of you, and really nice, tidy, neat little bites of really interesting information about these great wines. It's very cool.
What about Italian wine? I know you have a love for Italian wine. And there are a lot of Italian there's an Italian vibe sometimes in the area where you are. How are Italian wines doing in your market?
Yeah, Italian wines are, I think, continue to be king here. Toronto has a massive Italian population. I think we've always been a marketplace that has went really deep, I think, with Italian wineries throughout the country, not just Tuscany and Piemonte and some more famous areas. I think we see a lot of indigenous varieties imported here and enjoyed. I think much in the way I think maybe Quebec, I think has incredible depth of selection of French wines. I think maybe because of their heritage. I think in Ontario we definitely have a big interest in Italian wineries, and Italy is one of the most diverse countries for wine on the planet. from the Alps to Africa. I mean, it's a really geographically, it's just an incredible place, and it's no wonder that regionally food and wine is so diverse there. I mean, I think you could spend all your time just exploring wines in Italy and not venture out if you didn't want to, and still not even scratch the surface, I think.
So you've got an e-commerce system in your business. What are the kinds of hurdles you have to jump over to get that up and running in a country where alcohol monopolies are God?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're allowed to have websites. So, I mean, Shopify makes it pretty easy to have an e-commerce site. The only real hurdle I think that we have here in Ontario is that agents or importers can only sell by the case. And, that can be challenging, especially if it's a premium case of wine or expensive wine. Not everyone wants 6 or 12 bottles, depending on how it's imported. During the last 6 or 7 months, look, we're lucky. We have a government right now that's really interested in modernizing the beverage alcohol industry. So they're looking at ways to make it, easier for consumers to have access to beverage alcohol. So they've done a couple things to make it a little bit easier for consumers to get access to our wines. One is that we can do mixed cases now, so we can sort of pull stock and mix them and offer like really creative and fun mix packs. But also restaurants are now allowed to sell wine takeaway with food orders. So, there's a lot more consumers, I think, shopping these sort of shop wine bar hybrids right now, which is creating a lot of interest and exposing a lot of people to wine. So, but yeah, I don't know if that answers. Does that answer that?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it seems like it's a sort of a step in the right direction in terms of treating adults like adults, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. But the hardest part about having a website is just owning your content and keeping it up to date. So I think that's just common everywhere. But other than that, I think it's pretty similar to most other places.
So what are your criteria for listing an Italian wine? Does it have to be 100-point blockbuster, or does it have to be a niche grape that nobody's ever heard of, even in Italy? How do you go about selecting the wines? Is it just price or anything else?
I guess it's everything. It's not just one thing. The people behind the wines are the most important thing for us to want to pursue a partnership and work with them. Ontario is such a complicated market. Hats off to anybody that wants to start importing wine or representing wineries here, because it's so challenging and so restricted. It takes a very long time to build anything that resembles a business. So, if you're going to work with somebody, to bring the wines into the marketplace, they need to be people that you can actually work with. So that's really key. But the bare minimum for us is going to be organic, biodynamic, a real strong focus on viticulture, low intervention winemaking, and then they have to be excellent people. It can't just be really pretty packaged wine that just looks hip and cool on Instagram. It takes a lot of work and effort and organization to bring a case of wine to Ontario and deliver it to somebody at their house or to a restaurant. So it can be really challenging if you guys don't get along and can't work well together. But most of the wineries we work with, we've worked with for a very long time, and most of the new wineries that we work with generally come through references from our partners, because they like working with us, and I'm sure they all go to the same wine shows, and they'll ask, hey, who do you work with here? But most of the people we work with, we're usually on the same page, and so far that's worked out pretty well for us as a way to guide us to new partners.
I mean, do you do like in-store tastings? If one of your, Italian producers is over in town, do you organize a tasting where he or she can, maybe get 20 people in a room and do a dinner or something, or is that too difficult?
No, we would do all that stuff. Right now, we probably wouldn't, because everybody has a different comfort level with COVID, whether, how big their bubble is, et cetera. And then also like whatever restrictions are in place on a given day, because it does change quite frequently week to week, what you're allowed and not allowed to do. But if all things were normal, yeah, I mean, we have wineries business all the time. We'll usually spend 2 or 3 days in the market visiting restaurants, doing tastings, with people that are interested in meeting them. If it's a winery that has some product in the LCBO, we could plan and do in-store tastings or taste with the LCBO staff for some of their bigger stores. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty involved. Generally, we spend a lot of time hosting people in the marketplace, and because it's so competitive here, I think you do need to visit, and you do need to be on the street, and you do need to hustle and get out there. And we have an amazing sales team, and they do a really great job of taking our wineries around. And they have amazing relationships in the city and throughout the province. So yeah, I think that's one of the better parts of the job. Sometimes it can be a bit much. Sometimes it feels like people are only ever visiting, but for the most part, it's really great. These are awesome people. Who wouldn't want to spend a couple of days driving around and hanging out with other really great people and talking about wine? I think it's one of the reasons why we love what we do so much.
Yeah, no, that always comes across with you, which is great to see. Have you done any grape harvesting this season?
A little bit. I'm a partner in a winery based in Creemore, Ontario, which is a new sort of up and coming region in Ontario. And so I've been helping whenever I have some free time to go up there and help process fruit as it comes in with our other partners. And yeah, that's been really exciting. It's been a really good vintage this year in Ontario for the most part. Everything came early and at once, it seems like, for most wineries. So generally we would see harvest starting September through last year. I think, even the beginning of December, I think there was snow, and I think people were still processing Cabernet Franc last year. But this year it all came at once, and I think it's been a really good vintage. So yeah, that's been interesting as well. It's definitely not my main focus. Obviously, I have the other business, but I love it, and I love what we're doing there, and I think it's really exciting.
So if I've understood correctly, Ontario now has controlled cannabis sales, similar to other key wine regions like California, for example. What impact might this have on wine consumption in your market?
Well, I knew you were going to be excited about cannabis being legalized in Canada, so I'm glad I kind of figured that was going to come up. Yeah, I don't think it's had an impact at all, really. I think it's not like cannabis wasn't around before it was legalized. I think people that smoked it, and people that drank wine. Occasionally, you might do both, and possibly regret it the next day. But maybe it's for people that maybe had been drinking too much, or maybe had some challenges with alcohol. Maybe switch to cannabis. I'm sure there's that might be a thing, but I think for the most part, no. And it's been really successful. Alcohol is likely far more dangerous than cannabis, and we live in a very regulated province, and cannabis is incredibly regulated here. I think they do a really good job of commercializing it. Probably too good of a job. They probably need to relax it a little bit. But yeah, I think they're being really careful, and so far, to me, it looks like there's been a very mature attitude towards cannabis in Ontario from consumers and from the trade. So yeah, I think it's shocking that it wasn't always legal.
Yeah, how plugged in are you still to the Toronto restaurant scene?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but I come from restaurants, and
yeah, you come from a restaurant background. Can you still keep up with what's going on in that scene, or are you just totally swamped by wine?
no, I think so. I'm still really interested in the restaurant industry. I always wanted to have my own restaurant, and that's what I wanted to do before I started the agency. And to be honest, I don't know if I have any friends outside of the restaurant industry, like maybe a couple I've known since before I was in it. I would say we're pretty immersed in the restaurant industry. I think everyone in the company is. We all come from restaurants for the most part, and our business really focused on restaurant sales in the beginning because our wines were so niche and they weren't hip at the time for most consumers. When I started, the LCBO really wasn't interested in organic unless it was really inexpensive, and there wasn't the same sort of knowledge level I think that the buyers and the people at the LCBO have now. Back when I started, so I didn't really have a choice. My only the only customers available to me were restaurants, and yeah, I've been really lucky. They've been really good to us over the years, and we've done everything we can to try and support them as well. And like this, right now we have a campaign on right now where for 4 weeks we're not promoting wine on Instagram. We're just promoting restaurants that are doing really great takeout and bottle shops here in Ontario, because I think they really need the support, probably more than we do right now. Restaurants all across the world, I think, have been hit pretty hard, and everybody needs to do more to support them and make sure that they survive this.
Yeah, because once they're gone, they're gone. They're not coming back.
Well, they'll never be the same again. Like if you think about the recession, like the last one, a lot of good kind of came out of it. On the other side, it sucked going through it. Businesses went out of business, but a lot of new businesses popped up afterwards. The entire restaurant industry really changed and moved away from really high end fine dining to really high end casual dining, and we saw that all around the world, not just here in Ontario. And now that we're in this might be halftime in the pandemic right now, we're seeing a lot of restaurants doing really incredible creative things. We have a very vibrant restaurant industry, beverage alcohol industry in Ontario, with a lot of really talented people, and it's just amazing what they're doing just to survive and keep their lights on right now. We're definitely seeing a lot of burgers and stuff and sandwiches and stuff, but we're also seeing a really incredible takeout, like stuff that you just can't cook at home, and good value, and some great restaurants here in Toronto and all over Ontario. Like, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, are there any sort of new twists, for example? I mean, a classic dish we associate with your part of the world is salmon. Is anybody in Vancouver doing anything funky with salmon, either with the ingredients or with pairings with wine?
Well, I don't spend a ton of time in Vancouver, although we've just started working out there in that province. So I'm going to find out. So I can't really comment on what Vancouverites are doing with salmon right now. I'm sure they're doing lots of creative things with salmon out there. But in Ontario, we have such a big Italian population, and I think reverence for really classic Italian food and find examples of classic Italian food that people sort of stay in that lane. It seems like with most restaurants, maybe I've missed some things, who knows? And we're also seeing a lot more engagement in, I think, American Italian cuisine, sugo sauce and things like that, pasta and meatballs, deep dish pizza, this is sort of fairly new to us, or maybe used to exist and sort of went away, and now sort of coming back and maybe at a higher quality level. But I don't know if that counts as Italian food for Italians, but it's quite popular here now as well. And it's comfort food, which is what I think a lot of people are craving right now. Time of year, plus, with their stress levels and concern through the roof.
I know you don't get a lot of time to travel, but when you do travel to Italy, where's the favorite place in Italy that you've been to, and what is your dream destination if you can have a week off?
I really love the north, Alto Adige, Dolomites. That's where I'd like to spend a lot of time if I could in Italy. Sicily, I've never been. I've always really wanted to go there. I can't say that's one of my favorites, but I think it might be. I've never been there. I'd love to go at some point. But I do love the north. I love the blend of that sort of German-Italian. I love how different it is, and the landscape, and it's just beautiful. I've never had a bad time there every time I've gone. But Italy's great everywhere. It's one of the most hospitable countries in the world, especially if you're traveling for food and wine. And people are very passionate all over. So I've never been anywhere in Italy where I've been unhappy, to be fair. I've covered quite a bit of ground there. There's only been a few places I think I haven't really visited, and it's always been pretty great.
When people ask me this question, I can never answer it. But, if you could have 3 wines on your table this evening, a red, a white, and a fizzy, with whatever food you wanted on the planet, what would your 3 bottles be?
Hans, well, listen, if Joe Biden is announced the president of the U.S., I'll probably celebrate. I'll probably have something a little bit nicer. I have a few wines from Italy that I've been saving to drink. I have Four Doors Pinot Grigio, so back to the Dolomites, which is a Amphora Pinot Grigio that's quite rosé and is delicious. I think that's just one of the best wines in our portfolio right now when we can get some. For white, really tough. I really don't know. Maybe something from Sicily. Maybe a Sicilian wine or blend, something from Occhipinti or Cos or Calabretta maybe. Calabretta makes some really nice, really sort of fat and juicy whites on that that are delicious. And sparkling, I think Fedora makes amazing Prosecco. I swore I would never import Pinot Grigio and Prosecco until I met Emilio from Fedora, and I think he does a incredible job. They also just finished converting to biodynamic, and they're fully Demeter now certified, which is a great achievement for them. And they've been organic, I think, since the 70s. But yeah, I can always open their wines, and they're really, really well priced and inexpensive, and they always drink really well. So yeah, that's probably what I would do tonight.
I mean, you do strike me as someone who, obviously likes I know I'm not saying Petrus, but the kind of famous wines. But you're down to earth guy, and I'm imagining that you derive an enormous amount of pleasure from sort of normal everyday wines without hankering for $150 200 bottles every single day. Is that right, or have I got you completely wrong?
Yeah, no, I think that's probably right. I mean, for red, like I like sort of medium-bodied, sort of crunchy, lighter reds. So, like, if I were to have a red tonight, it probably would be something from like Ampalea, like they're on Litro, which is like a 1 liter every day, very inexpensive, I think, but very good quality red blends from Tuscany, and also biodynamic and stuff. So, yeah, that's the kind of stuff I like to drink. I mean, it should be really pleasurable and easy drinking. And sometimes I'm lucky. I do get to try a lot of really great wines. I'm quite often not drinking expensive Bordeaux and Burgundy. That's not really what we do. Although we do have some fine wineries from both places, but who can afford to drink these wines every day? So, and some of them are right now, sadly, are priced themselves out of most marketplaces and channels. So they're becoming increasingly irrelevant to the trade and consumers. So I don't know. I'd rather support wineries that are really just living off of their own small business and supporting their families.
For your business, do you get the odd article in the national newspaper, a review of a wine that you're stocking, and a journalist says, "Hey, there's an offer on at Mark's shop." I mean, does that how it work, or do people just ignore you?
So you broke up for a minute there, Monty. Are you calling me from your Nokia 3310, or are you?
I've still got that phone.
It's a vintage phone, but anyways, yes, go on.
I'm never going to live my phobia of mobile phones down. But I thank you very sincerely for reminding me of my lack of skill when it comes to computers and things like that.
I'm a good friend. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, do you get, do people write up your wines in reviews in national newspapers, or are you allowed to do that in Canada? Or
for sure, we have a lot of journalists in Canada. We have some really great ones. There's a company called Wine Align in Canada that works with a lot of journalists and reviews a lot of products that go through almost everything that goes through the LCBO plus in private if they get access to it. There's a number of journalists there, and I think they're doing really great work. They're producing a lot of really great content, and they're pretty laid back and just generally nice people that don't have extreme views on wine. So I think a very Canadian approach to a lot of the writing. And then in Western Canada, there's some great journalists and writers out there as well. Tree Ring does really great work. I really like her writing. Yeah, I mean, can we have it all here, Monty? We have great people in every facet of the beverage alcohol industry.
Well, my uncle and my dad both. My uncle lived in. My dad's father lived in Canada for most of his life in British Columbia, and my dad spent a lot of time. He spent time teaching in Canada before he came back to the UK. This is after the war, and so I feel I've got a bit of an affinity to Canada. And I mean, one of the only true facts you ever hear in life is you'll never meet a bad Canadian. It's just one of the immutable truths of life.
Well, I think that's good to hear. It's nice that Canada maintains its reputation, and it's no wonder. I mean, Canada and the UK, of course, have a long history together. Especially where I grew up in Newfoundland. I'm an eighth generation Newfoundlander. My family originally comes from Devon, Southern England, and I think all of my friends and growing up there. I mean, we all have roots going back to the UK and in England and Ireland and Scotland. So. In Wales. I have quite a few friends with Welsh parents. So I think we always I think there's definitely a kinship there. So it's no wonder that I think you feel that way. I hope Canada can maintain its reputation.
Yeah, so do we. And we hope that you continue to do what you do in Canada, in Toronto, pioneer of organic and biodynamic wine in your neck of the woods. You're a fun guy, and I hope you've enjoyed having a chat with me today. I've certainly enjoyed having a chat with you, and you are one of the rare guests who's been invited back here twice, and we're going to wait and see if we can make you come back for a third time in a year or so. Okay, hopefully when this COVID dies down.
Well, I mean, this is the only podcast that I will actually agree to do. So it's. If you don't invite me back, I think it sort of stops there for me. So I hope you do. Nobody else will invite me on. I don't know why. I do have a person that emails these companies, and we get no response. It's really strange. Listen, it's appreciated. So thank you.
Yeah, and we just hope both of our listeners enjoyed the podcast today, and we'll hopefully see you next time, Mark. Take it easy.
Thanks, Monty. It was great chatting with you. Take care.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.